This dark web stuff is trash. Do you guys actually read this? Wouldn't you want to read something with Mr. Negative instead? Alright, Mr. Negative, that is enough, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man Weekly, where I cover all of Spider-Man's comic books. But right now, I am covering the Dark Web event, which I would say it's debatable that this could possibly be the worst Spider-Man event that has come out in quite some time. Now, there's not all bad in this whole thing, but this is not a very good event, if you want to call it that. I would have loved this to be maybe an arc and not consider it an event, in my opinion here. But we got 3 comics to talk about this week. We have Dark Web Ms. Marvel. This is issue 2. We have Dark Web Mary Jane and Black Cat. This is issue 2. And then we have, of course, the main book, The Amazing Spider-Man. This is issue 17. So we're gonna talk about the Amazing Spider-Man book last, and we're going to talk about the book that should not exist, period. And that is Dark Web Ms. Marvel issue 2. This book should not be in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man. In fact, the weird thing about this whole thing is Miles Morales shows up in this book. The one thing that I did like about this comic, though, is the artwork. The artwork actually looks pretty good. Ms. Marvel looked nice. Some of the demons looked okay. The characters themselves, even though they were like weird and wonky, I thought they were good looking. You got these characters called the Inventors, which, you know, was famous people from the past resurrected as birds. Yeah, kind of weird, but that's what happened in this issue. That's why this issue was not good, okay? So, but here, like I said, you do have Miles Morales in here fighting, yeah. Let's get into this story. So, Ms. Marvel, at the end of the last issue, winds up going into limbo, okay? And you're like, okay, just like all the other characters, everyone finds themselves in limbo, and you have to deal with that situation in limbo. Well, right from the start, Ms. Marvel winds up in limbo, and she comes across a demon, and she's like,
I'm not gonna have this, so you better transport me out of here right away.
And then what you see is you see her starting to fight these guys, and then she's like, and
you're gonna have to deal with me. And
like, send her back, and then all of a sudden they send her back, and she's back on Earth, just like that. No real reason why she should be in this comic book any further. But she ends up back in Jersey, and now she has to but she has to deal with her mask being transported because it became a freaking demon. And the reason why it's leaving its location is because the demon says, I don't want to deal with the Muslims in New Jersey because they're bickering, they're dirty, and it's Miles' job to try to sit there, I can't believe I'm talking about this, and have a conversation with their mosque and say, you should be there. And the mosque is like, okay, maybe I'll go back, and all I needed was a conversation with somebody. Are you for real? Is this real life right now? Is this a comic book? Like, oh my God, this is gotta be probably, and it's way early in the year, but I gotta say, not only would this be the worst tie-in of any event of this year, right? But this will probably go down in one of my worst comic books of the year. This book was horrible and has no shape or form being in this Spider-Man event. Even though this is not the greatest event, there's no reason. Just because Kamala showed up in 2 or 3 panels in the Amazing Spider-Man comic, it does not deserve this. This was horrible. Don't read this. I mean, it has nothing to do with the event whatsoever. All right, so let's move on to a bright spot in this dark web event. This goes to Mary Jane and Black Cat. This is issue 2, written by Jed MacKay. Now, this is a writer that has done very well with the Black Cat, and he has added many layers to the character. He knows how to write characters. He has great character interactions. The books are actually funny, and it's in the right moments, and this feels like it has a little bit more of a purpose to it. The artwork in this book is actually pretty good. We get to see the opening page here. Our heroes, I guess you want to call them, have a dinner with Belasco, who was the former ruler of Limbo. And I didn't know who this character was, but Jed MacKay did a wonderful job at explaining who the character is, what he once was, and what his purpose is now. Puts him on a mission to get the Soul Sword back. And he has hired Mary Jane and Black Cat to actually do this. And he feels like these Earth girls are going to have this advantage in getting this Soul Sword back. And if he gets Soul Sword back, then what he can do is actually be in charge of Limbo once again. And that's what he wants. Now, this book is pretty awesome because once they go on this journey, we wind up getting to see Mary Jane and Black Cat interact with each other. And we get to see the inner thoughts of Mary Jane thinking about how she should tell Mary Jane about her feelings towards Peter. We know that that's a very sore subject, and it's pretty interesting, right? So we can see that that is a touchy subject in a time where they have to work together to try to get out of the situation that they're in. Now, if they recover this soul sword, they'll be able to go back to the world that they once belonged. But we have all these other players that are involved that are also trying to get this soul sword. In order to do that, they have to go to this crazy tower and overcome all these booby traps and monsters and all this other things. This book was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And again, what makes this is just the character interactions between these two characters, whether them talking about Peter or making fun of each other or just them being in tight situations. Mary Jane trying to use her powers, which is a thing that I have not touched on yet. These powers tend to be a little bit random. She doesn't really know how to control it, and it seems to be controlled by this type of bracelet. So when she's forced to use these powers this time around, it winds up becoming that she does not have the luck of the draw here, but she winds up spewing out feathers. Now, she does make it a thing here is that her powers are less when she pops out a skull. You know, it's kind of like a slot machine. So when she pops out this skull, bad things happen. She's done one, she's done two twice, and she doesn't want to see what happens when three happens. So that's very interesting. But you can clearly see that there is a bracelet that is activating these powers. Where did she get this bracelet? Well, I think she got this bracelet in the 6 months time that we have not seen yet. So I can't wait to see that actual story when it happens. And at the end, they come across another, which you think is an adversary. Definitely a really good book. If there's anything I recommend, is I recommend this. Shit, I don't even think you really have to read the main Amazing Spider-Man event to enjoy this comic book. Just read it from issue 1. Now you're on issue 2. You're just going to want to see the outcome of these two characters together. So really good book. Definitely, again, recommend it. Here we go. I'm trying to rationalize this comic, okay? Issue 17, The Amazing Spider-Man, all right? So, artwork is good. Let's talk about that. Ed McGuinness is the artist on this comic book, and it looks great. I love the character's facial expression. Ben Reilly looks absolutely amazing in his chasm form and just the way he uses his weapons and whatnot. Maddie looks good. You even get these new crazy characters that were created just for this story arc, and you get this version of like a Sinister Six. They're called the Insidious Six, and they're all these demon creatures and whatnot, which is actually kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, like when I read this book, it was actually funny, and it kind of fits the tone for what they're going for. Like they're in limbo, they're demons and stuff like that, and they're just like lower life forms, and Peter looks at it as like, oh my god, they're so beneath me. It's almost like this book is poking fun at itself. It almost makes you feel like, as a reader, when you read this, that Zeb Wells is saying, this is a joke right now. I can't wait to get to the meat of my story. And I could be completely off by that, but I feel like that's what this dark web thing is going for here. Because when you see him fight, he's just like, okay, another one, right? And it's just like, he's tired of it and he just wants to go back home. Ben Reilly is keeping him in this limbo because he wants Peter Parker to pretty much give up his soul to give him his memories back. And when he does that, he'll send all his friends back home and everything will be right. But of course, Peter Parker won't be the same. But Peter is just like, I'm not buying into any of the stuff that you're selling to me. It was humorous because Ben Reilly is forcing them to live out things that they would do at home. So like, Jay Jonah's forced to do his job in limbo, which is kind of weird. And if he doesn't, he's going to be punished. And all these people start to kind of rally behind Jay Jonah. And he kind of sends them on a mission to, figure out things that are going on back at Earth. They all speak backwards. They can't get anybody's name right. But the craziest thing of them all, and I'm not sure where we're going to go with this, is that you get this one guy who calls himself Parker Man, right? So all these demons, like I said, say things in reverse order. He wants nothing but to be a hero in limbo. After a while, he gets this other demon guy that recruits him. He has a little piece of symbiote. It changes this Parker Man character, who is this little dweeb of a demon, into the newest Spider-Man character. Will this character have legs? I don't know. But his name is Rek-Rap, which is reversed for Parker. He looks pretty beefy. He looks pretty cool. Is he just going to be the Spider-Man in limbo and we're never going to see him again? I don't know, guys, but that's a first appearance right there. The one cool thing I could say that happened in this comic book is that Peter is wearing his old outfit again. Yes, he sewed it up just for a battle in limbo. Okay, so listen, I'm not going to recommend this entire event to anybody. However, when it comes to The Amazing Spider-Man issue 17, I'm not going to say it was the worst thing I ever read. If you do go into it with an expectation of nothing, you will have a little bit of fun with this because I did laugh out loud. But if you go deeper into it just a little bit and you think about the thought process behind Zeb Wells here, I think he really wants to get to the story that he wants to tell. I'm not sure if this event was created by the editorial staff and said, Zeb, you gotta create this event, come up with a story, and then we'll get to the story you want to tell. I don't know. I have no idea what goes on behind the offices, but I feel like Zeb Wells was poking fun at this story a little bit, going, oh my God, can we just get on with it already? Because that's the way Spider-Man was battling these demons in limbo. And also with all the word mispronunciations, like butchering names and stuff like that. I mean, it was hilarious in those aspects, right? But as an overall story, as an overall event, this is not an event. This should be no more than just a story arc. This should not cross over. There should be no other books, But if there's anything that you get out of the dark web as of right now, and I'll say it again, enjoy Mary Jane and Black Cat. I don't think you'll be disappointed with that, and you won't be disappointed with a Gold Goblin. And hopefully when this event is over, that we will get to the meat and potatoes of what this Zeb Wells run actually is. So hopefully there's more than 300 people that watch this freaking video this time around, because I do love covering Spider-Man comic books, but there seems to be nobody watching them because maybe nobody cares about the character anymore, and that's a shame. Let's hope we get to a point where people are reading Spider-Man again. So, guys, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you love my content, I'm going to leave you my Worthy Ones videos where I cover the new #1 comic books of the week and see if they're worthy. So, guys, as always, keep buying, keep collecting, but most importantly, always read your comics. Guys, I'll see you real soon. Bye.